Every town has its secrets, but some mysteries refuse to fade. On February 11th, 2000, a young man named Gussie Shanahan vanished from Limerick City, Ireland. Nearly 2 decades later, his partial remains were found. But the truth behind his disappearance remains one of Ireland's darkest mysteries. This is the haunting story of Gussie Shanahan, a case that still demands answers. Limerick, Ireland, February 2000. A young man vanishes into the night, leaving behind no explanation, no trace, only questions that would haunt his family for decades. His name was Angus Shanahan, known to everyone as Gussie. He was just 20 years old when he disappeared. This is the story of his final night, the haunting discovery years later, and the mystery that remains unsolved to this day. On Friday, February 11th, 2000, Gussie spent part of the afternoon at the Bank of Ireland on O'Connell Street. His father, Bob, was the bank manager, and Gussie stopped by to pay him back a £40 loan. CCTV footage captured him in a distinctive white jacket with red trim on the sleeves. He looked cheerful, chatting briefly with his father before leaving. He mentioned plans to attend a disco that evening at Catherine Street and said he would stay with his friends, Dermot and Fiona. Later that night, Gussie joined Dermot and Fiona at Cooper's bar. Fiona recalled that he was in great form, full of energy, and eager to stay out late, but by 9 p.m. she decided to leave. Dermot followed half an hour later. Gussie, however, stayed behind. He chatted with people, drank a beer, and at one point was seen smoking by the front door. At 11:30 p.m., CCTV caught him leaving the bar. His jacket was tucked under his arm, and he carried a Budweiser bottle in his hand. That was the last confirmed footage of Angus Shanahan alive. An eyewitness, a woman by the name of Patricia McNamara, told Gardaí that she saw him walking past her car with his hand to his head, appearing agitated. He crossed the road to Dermot and Fiona's apartment and stood facing the front door, but didn't knock. He stood there for some time before setting his beer bottle on the ground and walking away to the left of the apartment. He was last seen turning right into a dark laneway, known locally as Angela's Ashes Lane. This was the last confirmed sighting of Angus. When Angus's family didn't hear from him on Saturday 12th, they assumed he had stayed another night at Dermot and Fiona's, and so weren't particularly concerned. However, Dermot came to the Shanahan home on Sunday and explained that he hadn't seen Angus since he left the bar on Friday night, and that he had never arrived at their apartment. Bob Shanahan remembered the disco that Angus had mentioned to him and suggested that perhaps he had gone out with other friends or had met someone and was with them. On Monday morning, Bob used the computers at the bank to check Angus's account and saw that he hadn't used it since Friday afternoon, when he withdrew the cash to pay back his father. Bob called the Dell factory that afternoon, but they told him that Angus never showed up for his shift that day. It was at this moment that Bob knew something was terribly wrong. Angus was reported missing, and by Monday evening, a full-scale search was underway.
On October 28, 2001, partial skeletal remains were discovered at Key Island in Bunratty by the Bunratty Search and Rescue Team. Even though they were only footbone fragments, it was confirmed through DNA testing in 2018 that they were, in fact, the remains of Angus Shanahan. Although his family were able to bury the partial remains and give Angus a proper send-off, they still had many questions about what happened to him that night and how he ended up in the river. It was theorized that one of 3 things might have happened. He entered the water deliberately, he encountered a drunken misadventure, or he was attacked and then dumped into the river. However, his family and Garda strongly believed that he met foul play that night and was disposed of in the River Shannon. When Angus was last seen, he was walking in the opposite direction of the river, and it seems unlikely that he would have turned back and walked right down to the water or placed himself into a position where he might have fallen in. Tragically, Angus's mother Nancy passed away in 2016, never getting any answers about what happened to her son. However, his sister Grania Shanahan has tirelessly campaigned for answers and justice. She stated in 2019, It has been confirmed to me that he was in the company of people that night who would have possibly put him in danger. He was in the wrong place at the wrong time. I think he was in company where something went terribly wrong and someone reacted to it and he was murdered. I'm Angus's voice. I have to follow this. Angus was a citizen of this country and I need to push to get him justice. I want people questioned and answerable to what happened that night. It's the least he deserved. He didn't deserve to be taken from us so tragically like that. There are people out there who know what happened to him. They have left us without answers for 19 years. I have to speak up for Angus because he's not here to speak up for himself. Continuing, she provided further details about her brother's character and the type of person he was. Grania stated, "He was definitely a cheeky chappy. He was a big softy underneath it all. Although he tried to sometimes portray a harder exterior at times, he had huge trust in people. He saw the best in everyone, and it definitely brought him down. He definitely misjudged people in situations because of it. He loved the countryside and farming. It was a safe place for him. At times when he was starting to get into trouble, my dad used to send him down to Kerry to his uncle for months on end, to get him away from that. He was naive and easily led, but I do believe he was starting to turn a corner." His family hopes that one day soon, someone will be held accountable. But until that day comes, the disappearance of Angus Gussie Shanahan remains one of Ireland's most haunting, unsolved mysteries.